So I had this idea to create a moonlit cityscape on the water. Sort of like growing up in Jersey City and looking across the river and seeing New York. Uh, Beautiful to look at. But then when you cross the water and we're actually in the city, it wasn't so beautiful. So I have some acrylic paints, some Dina Wakley. I'll be using several colors of hers. And I have some Artist Law from Michaels. This is metallic cobalt. And I will be using the same brand, Artist Law metallic white. So now I'm going to start blocking in the sky along the horizon. I'm using blackberry violet. And now I'm going to add some lapis. And not enough, so I have to get a little more. And keep on covering it up, nothing fancy. Now I'm going to add some night to darken that whole sky. It was just too bright. Okay, good enough. Now we're going to use some of that cobalt blue to put in the water, and there was still some dark paint in that brush, which added streaks to the water and just made it look better. Okay, now that it's dry, I am going to add my moon with metallic white. And now I am going to dry it with my Makita industrial heat gun. Variable speed, variable temperature. I convinced my husband that we really needed this for the house, and I've been known to let him use it from time to time. You know, my embossing gun is great for embossing, but it's too hot just for drying. And my Ranger heated tool is great for drying, but for embossing, it's eh. So I have my Makita. One tool does it all, and it sits up on its back, takes very little room on the counter. So I should be dry right about now and ready to put on the second coat of white. And I've gone a little out of round, so now I have to fix it. So I have 3 book pages, and I'm going to use watering can archival. Now I'm using a Tim Holtz chevron stencil. And I have my little sponge. I get these round sponges and I cut them into wedges, and I staple a label to them and put the ink name on it. So each ink has its own sponge. Okay, so much for that page. Stick it in the pan and spray it so the ink doesn't dry on it. And now I have a Dilutions stencil, and again, sponge on the watering can ink. Different intensities, just slap it on there. It's really, I'm probably being too anal. This is all going to be torn into pieces to create my buildings. And finally, I'm going to use an old plaid stencil, I think. I cut it up so it made it easier using the different designs on the sheet. And I'm just randomly throwing the ink on there. And what's cool is each one of these book pages is a different texture, weight, age. And so it all looks a little bit different. It takes the ink different. Now I'm using a ruler to tear because some of these pages are so old that they'll just shred if I don't use the ruler. So I have all my buildings ripped out, and now I'm going to apply some windows here and there with yellow, lemon yellow paint. Not covering the whole building, just here and there. Now I'm going to put my buildings down with matte Mod Podge. And buildings, this whole cityscape doesn't look like New York. I just wanted to give the idea. I didn't want to actually copy the cityscape. So these buildings are just random heights and widths and patterns, and just slap them down. And it's starting to actually look like something. What a concept. And I'm only putting the Mod Podge on the back because I might want to add some detail to these buildings. And I don't want it all sealed up with the Mod Podge. Last building, and sure enough, I am now using my Pit pens to add highlights and shadows to give the buildings dimension, because it's a little too flat. And I'm not following the rules. I probably have light where there should be dark and dark where there should be light, but my goal here is just to give it dimension. So if it's not rendered properly, so what? Let's see, those buildings are really starting to stand out now. And we are coming along nicely. Okay, so I have a itty bitty background stamp from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to put in some craters into the moon. And now we're going to add our shoreline. A little night, a little umber, and some regular white. Mix it all up. I guess a little more night. Okay, now we're just going to paint in the shoreline. And drag it out a little for shadows and wharfs and things. Okay, now with the white metallic, I'm going to add the reflection of the moon on the water, and a little couple of, on waves and stuff. And we'll add a little bit more to that bright strip there. Okay, now I'm tearing tissue paper, and I have some stamps from Hero Arts, and I'm going to stamp them with archival ink on the tissue. And I don't want them to be completely transparent, so I am putting on some Pit pen white on the back. Now I'm going to add a little bit of sepia to the Statue of Liberty and the edges of that stamp image. And now we're going to tear it out. And I'm going to end up applying it to my page with some more of that matte Mod Podge. My lid was sticking, so that's why I put that plastic on there. Looking good. Right now I'm using an Wow Studio stencil. That is the Star Confetti. And I'm putting some stars in the night sky. It's a bit of a fantasy because everybody knows you can't see stars over a city. But it's my page, my city. I wanted stars, so I got them. Now I'm going to go back over those stars with Mod Podge because I am going to add some glitter. And it's just some kind of glitter I picked up at a local craft store. It wasn't some major brand or anything. And now I'm pressing it into the Mod with a piece of scrap paper. And now I'm going to enhance some of the windows because you really don't see them. So the top and right, I'm using a black fine pit pen. And the left and bottom, I'm using a gray. And I'm not doing all the windows, just random ones here and there across all the buildings. And I have some clear stamps from, I believe those were quick cuts. And I used them to stamp only from a distance. And now I have some hearts that I punched out with a two Stampin' Up! Embosslet dies. So each one of those hearts has a different embossed design on it. And I'm using a 3M adhesive, but really didn't do very well. I don't even know why I used it. So later on I re-glued all these hearts using my ultimate glue. That stuff holds everything and anything so much better. And especially that larger heart because that sits right over the fold. And it needed a better glue. In fact, I'm going to use my ruler and score that so it folds cleaner. And now I'm going to sign it and date it. And voila! And I hope you like it.